Nostalgia coming at you, giving you your top songs of this year as we do our music in review pod. And um, Dave, as we're about to jump into our songs, when we talk albums, I think every year you're going to have albums that just stand out and are wonderful. But songs are really like the moments of those, right? They're like the standout, the highlights. Did you feel like we got uh, some really? Do you feel like this was a good year for just like top hits of the year? Kind of a strange question, I know.
Huh. Hmm. Maybe probably not. I don't know if it like
Yeah.
transcended above other years.
I feel that way too. I was kind of reflecting on the song list, and I was like, these are really good songs. But I feel like one of the things that makes songs great is when you're able to like be together and like share with people, like, oh, this song really is awesome, or like
Yeah.
I love this part. And we just weren't able to do that as much this year. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Inherently, probably makes it
Absolutely.
hard. So, um, as I'm looking at my list, it's not to say that these are bad songs. I think these are fantastic songs, but maybe it feels a little bit less. I don't know. The highs aren't as high for me with these songs this year as others. But with that said, I'm going to kick us off at number 10. And my number 10 is off of an EP released by Disclosure earlier in the year. And the song is Tondo, which samples a Cameroonian artist named Echo Roosevelt. His song Tandoho Mba, and this song just I feel like is constantly stuck in my head. The bass line of this that Disclosure puts onto this track, bum, 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 ba-da, ba-ba-dum, it's just like so good. And even though Disclosure released an album later in the year, which had its moments, and I think the first half was really strong. Out of all their tracks this year, this one stood out and has stuck with me the most. And Disclosure, when they let themselves be weird and they explore their eclectic tastes, I feel like that's when they reach these highs. So Tondo, my number 10. Dave, what do you got number 10?
So my number 10 would be Circle the Drain by Soccer Mommy. And I felt like I had to represent indie in some way. And this is quite easily my favorite song in that space. There's been a lot of acclaimed artists and albums dropped this year. Waxahachie, Phoebe Bridgers come to mind. But for me, Soccer Mommy, another one right before the pandemic kicked off. But I think Miss Allison, she was able to give you up tempo indie music that's engaging to listen to, fun to revisit, while also filling it with heavier subject matter and introspective lyrics. And, she's definitely one of those, sad girls in the indie rock scene. But she just has an energy I prefer on most of her tracks. And to me, Circle the Drain is a clear highlight, just like the single you pick out from Color Theory. So shout out Soccer Mommy. That song really surprised me when I heard it.
Yeah, Soccer Mommy and Circle the Drain in particular is probably the best indie song. Phoebe Bridgers has a couple of tracks that might challenge it, but the one that stood out to me as well, one of my honorable mentions. My number 9 is a song by an artist that we did not talk about, but like I mentioned on our albums list, I came to later in the year, and this song, when I heard it, immediately after the album finished, I had to put this song back on because it just totally blew me away. And it's a song called "Kerosene" by Tumor, and off this album from April, "Heaven to a Tortured Mind." The song features Tumor with his like lower, more I wouldn't say it's baritone, but lower tone singing voice next to Diana Gordon, um, formerly known as Winter Gordon.
That's right.
Um, just totally like crushing her vocals and hitting this high range, and you hit the chorus and this guitar comes screeching in, and it's just absolute like rock perfection. Might be the best rock song of the year. looking down, I don't know if I'd put any of these other songs on my list in the same category as this, because this is purely rock. And Eve's Tumor just quickly becoming one of the artists that I feel like I need to dive into more and stand more, because this song, as well as Gospel for a New Century off the same album, are just absolute bangers and songs that I should have been standing all year. So that's on me, Dave. I'm going to take that one. But check out Kerosene for sure. Did you listen to it? I sent it to you the other day.
Yeah, definitely an omission on our part. Should
Yeah,
definitely should have hit that.
definitely. Great song. Check Kerosene out. Dave, what should people be checking out at your number nine?
My number nine is a song from Lady Gaga. When Chromatica came out in June after some COVID related delays. Didn't like it as much as I wanted to. And that disappointed me. You'll notice Chromatica did not make the album list, but it did still have a lot of moments I liked. And I had one of the biggest songs of the year in Rain on Me, which despite less harmonizing with Ariana Grande than I'd like, still is a real banger. And
Mhm.
the outro in particular, I find incredibly effective. Um, and probably my favorite Ari performance of the year, because Positions also was a more underwhelming project to me.
Mhm.
Uh, but for Lady Gaga, this album was remarked upon as like a return to form for her, in the sense that she's leaving the more stripped down stuff from Joanne, most of Joanne and the Stars Born tracks, and going back to where she made her bones with the Fame and the Fame Monster. And that was true, but she didn't actually take it all the way. And it almost Chromatica, funny enough, felt a little safe to me, despite how out there some of the music video ideas still are. And I think my favorite moment on Chromatica, where I felt most like early Gaga, my favorite Gaga, would be Plastic Doll in the middle of the track
Mm.
list, which made it here. And a lot of that production on Chromatica, that electro pop, feels dated. It feels old, and it feels a lot like the type of beats you used to ride on, 11 years ago. And to me, Plastic Doll, which has, I think, a more under the hood lyrically than you expect. That hook in particular is really effective. But that production brought me back to like old Gaga the most. So, I wanted to pick a Gaga song, and I was trying to think, and I could have picked Rain on Me, which I really like, but Plastic Doll for me, I feel like, it's more of a deeper cut, but brings me back to the old stuff the most. So that's why I went with it.
Inspired choice, an album that I feel like I didn't come back to as much as I expected to, but definitely one that when I did come back to was always a pleasure to listen to. So great choice. But Dave, you mentioned Rain on Me and how little Ariana and Lady Gaga harmonized together. So I wanted to get an even better duo that harmonized for even longer than them, and that's Drake and 21 Savage on Mr. Right Now, my number seven song of the
Let's
year.
go.
Um, man, I 21 Savage is an artist that quickly rose up in my standing after the album before this one, before Savage Mode at 2. And this song is just absolutely one of the most fun songs of the year in my book. Not only is the production on it just like super interesting and catchy, you have that like tuned up sample in the background kind of whirring around, but then you get 21 just dropping these ridiculous lines. I just want to read off a couple of them here. 1942. Oh no, make that thing sing like Sade. 1942. It ain't no Chardonnay. Got a pretty girl that I'm feeling on. We in quarantine, but my M's long. I mean, some of the stuff is just so ridiculous. I bought a penthouse because I'm never home. Threw my heart out the window, feelings gone. He's just like totally being like a lover boy on this, which I really like. And then you get Drake coming in just being ridiculous. I see you wanted to jump in real quick.
Well, I think the funniest line to me is one of the most Drake lines ever, which is like a intentional, like pseudo self own on the slow stroke king, hit me anytime,
Yeah.
calling himself the slow stroke king. Just incredible stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when Drake's verse ends and they, go to the pre-chorus and they both say, "I'm a slide anytime you want."
Mhm.
The fact that we got more harmonization from 21 Savage and Drake than we did from two world class vocalists like Ariana and Gaga, one of the biggest surprises of 2020.
Definitely. And I have to say, more than anything, I think the part about this song I love is just the chorus. I'm a slide anytime you want. Put you in Chanel. I'm gonna teach you how to stunt, slip and slide like a waterfall. You need some TLC. We can creep if you want. I mean, that just gets stuck in your head so quickly. Um, Fantastic writing, fantastic delivery, and the whole song is just a lot of fun. My number seven of the year, uh, or sorry, my number eight of the year. Dave, what's your number eight?
My number eight is another choice that I deliberated on for a while. Megan Thee Stallion. I wanted to represent Megan on the list in some way. She had an amazing 2020. Last year, I had her Fever mixtape on the albums list. This year, it's two projects, Sugar and Good News, and a lot of big songs. I was like, what do I pick here? You know, for a while, I thought about doing Shots Fired with the obviously Who Shot You Biggie sample. Love the sentiment of that. Thought about combining that with another song in terms of like old school samples. Poo pooed that idea. Thought about Savage and WAP, really big hits, but also great tracks. But again, I went like Gaga. I went with something that's a bit of a deeper cut, which would be BITCH off the Sugar EP, tape, whatever that is. And I think that's actually probably the best highlight for Megan's intended growth. Probably the biggest criticism of Good News was that there are some moments, like on Sugar as well, where Megan is trying to sing and be more melodic, and she's just not quite there yet in terms of making those songs. We know when it comes to technical rap ability, in your face, aggression, energy, um,
She's got it.
explicit lyricism, we know she's at the top with that. She makes banger after banger. And if she didn't do anything else besides that, she'd be fine. BITCH, I think, is a great combination of those two ideas. So the closest she's gotten to this point of growing out that sound. And there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of hits on those two projects, and this one was a little unremarked upon as Savage kind of took off, when it came out. But uh, I think that's where we should point to for Megan's future growth. So a little deep cut, but that's my choice.
It is definitely a deep cut because when I think about that album, I think I even think about Captain Hook before I
Hmm.
think about that one. But definitely still a great track. It just speaks to, I think, Meg's level of excellence this year. She just dropped a lot of good songs. My number seven is a song by Kalani featuring James Blake
Oh,
off of her album from earlier this year. It was good until it wasn't. Grieving is a song that totally surprised me this year. And listening to that Kalani tape, it was a song that I immediately hit repeat on. The way that that song is musically designed, where they build up Kalani's part, they basically take a lot of the music out and lower it for James Blake's part to like lift his voice up, and then they bring the swell of sound back and start layering in their voices singing the chorus on Grieving. It's just so masterfully done. I found myself surprised almost every single time I listened to it at how that all came together so amazingly. It's a song that I'm really I admire every time I listen to it, and I never would have expected James Blake and Kalani to be a good duo, but I feel like their voices actually mesh together well. And I just wanted to take this as an opportunity to highlight that I feel like James Blake had a really strong year. He started doing like a lot of artists, a lot of Instagram lives. He didn't drop, I think, he didn't drop anything like super memorable this year, but everything
yeah,
that he
that one
dropped
little
was,
EP.
yeah, that one EP from earlier in the year, but the before EP. I liked all the songs off that. He did an albums or a covers album or EP that also thought was really great. He covered Frank Ocean, um, in my room, which I also thought sounded beautiful. So he's working, he's doing stuff, and I always like seeing him pop up. Feels like he's really in a groove right now. So grieving, my number 7 song. Dave, what's yours?
So my number 7 song, BTS, On. BTS, another act, had a banner year, 2 albums dropped. How to represent them. Dynamite, another worthy choice for the songs list for sure. Massive song, first K-pop song to go number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But that song, that song's in English. That's them catering to the West a little bit, right? But it's a great track. It's again
Yeah,
another 80s throwback lit song.
it's so good.
They're like just operating at such a high level
Yep.
in terms of Dynamite. But I wanted to pick something a little more traditional for what their sound has been. I went with On, which to me is just kind of that traditional anthemic K-pop banger. And to me, a song I've continued to go back to. So I just think it's really great. One of their songs where I think all 7 of the BTS guys all have memorable contributions to the track. I think of like Jimin and Taeyong on that first verse, the pre-chorus with Jin, Taeyong, RM has that second verse, Suga has a memorable verse, Jungkook of course has that bridge that really takes you out on the song. Its chorus is catchy as hell. The music video has really great choreography. Um, really, I think the first BTS song that I heard that like I really just really enjoyed going back to a lot. And when it comes to like more traditional K-pop stuff, I prefer it when it's more high energy. Like BTS, even on Map of the Soul 7, there are more lyrical tracks. There are like, those love songs and those ballad songs. But to me, when it's a little more high energy, like On, that's where they're operating at their best to me. So, Dynamite's a great choice as well. You can make a case for a bunch of their songs this year, but On's the one I went back to the most.
On definitely a highlight of those for me as well. BTS, like you said, just making great music all the time. They're a really good pop band. All right, we're gonna jump into my number 6. We're coming back to the States, and we're talking about another group that came back together for the first time in a while, and that's the Chicks with Gaslighter. Um, you know, when we talked about the Chicks, I think this album, by the same name as the song, was hit or miss. The tracks were up and down throughout, but I think overall we felt glad to have them back. Formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, kind of seeing them start to evolve and make music again is always exciting. And Natalie Maines using the relationship with her ex husband as the focal point for the album, the focus of the songs, definitely added a bite to it. And I feel like Gaslighter not only was an incredibly catchy song, but one that uh, I think will be used by men and women alike in the future as they go through breakups and start to move into that anger phase of grief in the loss of relationships. And it's just an absolutely catchy song. That chorus uh, just bounces around in your head. You find yourself jumping around and singing to a song about a person who is gaslighting and emotionally abusing somebody. And you don't really even think about it that much because it's just such a catchy track. So the Chicks, Gaslighter, my number 6. Glad to have them back. Maybe the catchiest hook of the year, catchiest chorus of the year on that. I might
Ooh.
say. I don't know. Definitely one that I think about all the time. Dave, your number 6, please.
My number 6 is iPhone by Rico Nasty.
I was wondering when this was gonna pop on the list.
Yeah, we cited I cited Charlie XCX, How I'm Feeling Now, on the albums list, which is of a similar vein in terms of that hyper pop sound production, notably because of the contribution of Dylan Brady, who produced iPhone. But I think iPhone is probably my favorite individual song when it comes to that kind of stuff. We got a lot of that this year, of course. We got more Gex music, we had Dorian Electra, Charlie. But I think iPhone for me really stood out because Rico's performance on top of everything else. Those three vocal pitch changes throughout the track, leading up to her actually singing on the second verse. Really great quotable of 2020. Smoking too much gas. I forgot to put my mask on. Hilarious. um, I think it's the best song Rico's ever made, or certainly right there at the top, because when you have her unique energy and her aggression, but you like twist it around into something that's so inviting like iPhone, despite the fact that it's Dylan Brady production. Like this shouldn't be an inviting track, but it is. And when she starts singing on that second verse, it like makes total sense. So I think for me, like it in terms of like the very in vogue hyper pop, it's the best track of that of the year. And also for Rico's own career, it's I think a new highlight, like a new jumping off point in terms of her continued growth. So big
Yeah.
highlight for me. Really, it's been out for a while, but I've been listening to it even more of late.
It's a great pairing, her and Dylan Brady, and I really hope we see more of them working together in the future because it feels like they can level each other up in a lot of ways. Number five for me moving forward is by a band that, Dave, I don't think you're going to expect me to have up this high, which is the 1975 with "If You're Too Shy, Let Me Know."
Wow.
Yeah, I know. When I was going through my list, and I worked from bottom to top, so I went 1 to 10. I couldn't put it any lower. This song has been one of the songs I've come back to the most this year. The 1975, a band that I often point to as being one that I think is overrated and looked at with more admiration than is actually deserved. Um, and I think you actually can kind of see a little bit of that on the album from this year, right? A bit of an underwhelming album. Notes on a conditional form. Um, Pretty unmemorable in a lot of ways, and not one that was talked about much after it was dropped. I think people felt like it was a little less thought out, a little less conceived than the previous album. And uh, the one part that I kept coming back to was this like modern love song that has this very like 80s feel to it. The guitar is really tuned up and sounds almost kind of like flock of seagulls esque in some ways. You have this like thumping drum in the background, and this just totally uh modern chorus about and lyrics about this meeting this person online who might be on OnlyFans, might be someone that you're following on Pornhub, and wanting to have this relationship with them, but feeling a little shy, feeling like you're not sure if they're going to want to go to that level with you. It's just such a fun song, and the build up to it's like 5 minutes long, but it never feels that long. Just a really impressive song that I wish the 1975 made more of this stuff than like the self serious stuff that they make. Because I feel like I would like them a little bit more, and I'd feel like they wouldn't get that savior of rock label that they get a lot of the time. But if you're too shy, let me know. Couldn't be any lower than number five for me this year. So, did it make your list? Probably not.
No, it didn't make my list. I had a different song on honorable mentions. What should I say? I really like those vocal uh, effects they did for Matty Healy on that one. But yeah, I'm surprised to hear this. This is interesting.
Progress, Dave. It's 2020. We're all just doing the best we can, right? What's your number five?
And my number five, don't have to spend too much time on this. This is a Weeknd track. Been my favorite Weeknd song off After Hours basically the whole time. That'd be Faith.
Hmm.
Um, so many highlights on After Hours. There's really no wrong answer in terms of picking this because there's so many good ones. It really just depends on which one you like, which one sticks with you. But for me, Faith, that beat kick where when Abel says, "If I OD, I want you to OD right beside me," and like the beat like
Hmm.
pauses and like restarts itself and kicks back in. That like 10 seconds is probably my favorite piece of production of the year. I've listened to it so many times. And like we said a lot about the album on the album list, you know, The Weeknd managing to get dark without sacrificing that like inviting pop sensibility is why After Hours is so impressive and so easy to revisit. And to me, Faith has been the song I've listened to the most.
Yeah, Faith is a great choice. Man, that album, both our number one, just so good. All right. Dave, just indulge me for a second, okay? I was just talking with my doctor wife, and I just needed to run a couple of things by you. Um, I said certified freak, 7 days a week. Wet ass pussy make that pull out game weak. Woo. Um, WAP was a song that created a lot of controversy this year. I think embodied the a movement in feminist music and feminist culture that is trying to, I think, make a important point, which is that um, women should be able to talk about sex and talk about their bodies and how they objectify men or objectify, or have felt objectified and taking that power back for themselves. Um, and not only was the song kind of doing all these things and bringing all this to light, but it's just a goddamn banger of a song. And you have Cardi B and Meg The Stallion, probably the two best female rappers in the game, and just two of the best rappers in the game in general right now, just absolutely going off on this track, trading bars seamlessly. It's a really impressive song and just one that I felt like made a larger cultural impact than just being a song this year. So um, definitely one that I come back to, just because it's a lot of fun. And if there's some hoes in this house, I'm with them. Do you have any thoughts on WAP?
Really considered it for my list. Went with the deeper Megan Cut instead, but it's a song I definitely love. It's so great.
It really is so great. Number four for you, Dave.
Yeah, number 4 for me. I'm curious if this makes your list. This would be "Run" by Joji.
My number two.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, Joji, I think really blew me away, blew a lot of people away with this song just because it's an incredible vocal performance from him. Vocal performance had not been a previous strength as he transitioned from YouTuber to full fledged real life music artist. But Run, his singing is so strong, and combine that with the guitars on that beat, it's so great. It's and it, again, we've said this a million times. A movie and a TV show both named Run that came out in 2020, and neither song used, neither project used this song in their
No.
run. Very strange.
Yeah. You know that a show like Euphoria is definitely going to use this and just like absolutely crush it. And all these other HBO shows are going to be like, why didn't you do this? But yeah, though you mentioned like the musical, like the sonic structuring around the song, and just like the way that the guitars come in at the end. But even before that, it's just even like the buildup of the song is like, I know that it's dark, and then like the buildup, and then kind of like that, like almost like release of like, so I'll just run, and like the music kind of like gets down to that level with him. It's just so masterfully done. Um, that ending guitar solo with him just kind of like quietly singing like and not travel the country like in the background is just so perfect in terms of like the mood and the emotion that you're trying to evoke from the song. And uh Joji, even though his album, I think, Modus was a highlight for me off that, but I think there's a lot of forgettable stuff on this most recent one. This is a track that will stick with me. And one, again, I think I've found a theme for me is the songs that I keep telling people like you have to listen to are ones that I found pretty high on my list. This is one I tell everybody you have to check out. So um Run, my number two. Dave, my number three, I'm expecting you to have on your list, so I just want to see how high it is. Levitating by Dua Lipa.
Numero uno, my friend.
Wow. Okay. Well, uh I'll let you take the lead on this then, because if it's your number one, you should get to talk about it.
Well, no, that's fine. I mean, I think Levitating is just a flawless dance pop track.
Yeah.
And because it's dance pop, it's very easy to listen to and revisit and play on loop and all those things. And uh, it's a goddamn banger.
Yeah.
And Dua Lipa, it's 25 years old, and she has a lot of damn bangers already. Like, it's great. And Levitating, to me, I was very perplexed to see it not pushed as a single out of the gate. Like, Don't Start Now came out before the album, Physical shortly before, and Break Your Heart, Break My Heart. Like, that became a big hit and a single right
Mhm.
afterwards. And Levitating did not get much of a push at all until several months later, where it gets a completely superfluous and unnecessary DaBaby remix and starts getting pushed to the radio with the DaBaby remix, as if DaBaby is somehow selling Dua Lipa's hits. Like, it didn't
Right.
make any sense to me. But either way, I think it's just a goddamn banger. It's so great, and like
Yeah.
it's hard to pick anything apart out of it to me, because in terms of like what Dua does well, in terms of like vocal performance on these dance pop tracks, these 80s and dead tracks, like this and Don't Start Now are like right there at the top. And Don't Start Now didn't come out this year, so I picked this song instead.
Yeah, I think Levitating is probably my favorite song on the list. It's not my number one because I think the next song we're going to talk about is just one that captures the mood of the year better. But Levitating is just an absolute. Yeah, you said it's a perfect pop song. Every part of it just feels like it flows and gets stuck in your head. It makes you want to dance, makes you want to jump around. It's just an absolutely fantastic track, and this more than anything else I listened to this year made me excited to um, like talk about music, to share music, to get back into clubs or into bars and like hear
Yeah.
this song and like dance to it. Like it just makes you really like appreciate what music is and what it can be. So, yeah, I really strongly suggest the song Exploder song on this. It really, I think, makes you even appreciate it further. So, Dave, what's your number? What do we have for you? Number three.
Yeah, number three for me. Had a lot of choices with this. I thought about going Walking in the Snow would Run the Jewels, but I represented the album instead on the album list. So I went with something of a similar sentiment, but probably a little under remarked upon compared to RTJ, and that would be Wishing for a Hero by Polo G, featuring
Mm.
BJ the Chicago Kid off Polo G's album The Goat, which dropped back in May, I believe, several months ago. Um, this notably flips the Rogers Hornsby's uh, song, made famous in Tupac's Changes. So notable lineage right there. Again, like Megan Thee Stallion did later on, flipping Who Shot Ya and Boys in the Hood as well. But more so than just the Changes flip, the choice is because of Polo G's performance, where like the song hits. It's a great rap song, but lyrically also happens to be speaking to the moment. And it's impressive to hear that from a young gun in the game. I think it's more impressive to hear that from Polo G than it is from someone we expect it from, like Killer Mike. Um, they killed Martin for dreaming and now I can't sleep. Just straight bars.
Mhm.
And uh, I think making a rap song while flipping a Tupac track is it's a tall order and not advisable if you can't pull it off. Apology actually pulled it off, and he's someone I'm very highly invested in his future. I think there's a lot of highlights off the goat that album, but I think this song in particular kind of stands out as like the beacon for his lyrical talent. So big fan of his.
Yeah, that was a definitely a highlight off that record when I listened as well. Great choice. My number two was Run by Joji. So Dave, it's back to you.
Number two for me, I wonder if you have this one. This was my number one for a while, then I switched it with Dua.
Yeah.
That'd be People I've Been Sad by Christine and the Queens.
Yep.
Which did this come out right before quarantine or right when it started? It was early in the year.
It was right before. I believe back in like February it was dropped, and yeah, this is my number one. And like I was saying,
Glad I changed it then.
yeah, as I was saying, this song I think encapsulates the feelings a lot of people have had this year as we've gone through a year marred by death and sickness and loss of people and places and spaces, celebrations. And not only did Christine the Queens capture that it lyrically, but then made a pretty perfect pop song around it that's re-listenable and emotionally evoking and just truly amazing to watch. And as the pandemic started, as many artists did, Christine the Queens did a lot of like live uh, videos, and every time she performed it, just like the heart started flowing. People were, leaving comments and emojis, and it's just one of the songs I think touched anyone that listened to it this year. So my number one, great choice for your number two, Dave. Tell me what made you put it up that high.
Yeah, like you said, just another prescient track. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even if that wasn't the case, I think it's this really beautiful track, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Christine the Queen's using various languages on that short La Vida Nuovo EP was impressive in its own right. But um, People I've Been Sad, I think it's just a kind of a huge highlight and probably one of the. I mean, looking at my list, thinking about your list, it's probably one of the least popular tracks we've talked about, if not the most popular, just because Christine is not the most well-known artist. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, just a really beautiful moment. Everyone I was listening to it, I was didn't expect much going in beyond knowing that Christine the Queen was really well liked, and then like you hear that EP when that song came on, I was just like, oh wow, did not see that one coming, but definitely
Yeah.
sticks with you.
Yeah, and I actually even considered picking another song on this list for my annual artsy pick. That's also like a sad pick, but Mountains We Met is just another song off that EP that stuck with me all year. Has a very similar vibe, and yeah, Christine the Queens is a artist that I think is, like a lot of other people this year, seems to be finding her stride, and I think just making great stuff. So tune into her. Dave, we gone through our top tens. We'll be posting them on Twitter, but I want to hear what songs didn't make your list that you just want to shout out real quick.
I mean, got tons for sure. Let's see. In terms of UK rappers, two come to mind for me. That'd be Ain't It Different by Heady One and Mains by Skepta, Chip, and Young Ads. I really love those tracks. Mains in particular, one of my favorite Skepta performances ever. So good. Um, Gangsters and Sippas by Shoreline Mafia has probably my favorite just straight up beat of the year. A really great beat flip
Mm,
at the beginning of that track. Um, I was really happy with the Bryson Tiller comeback this year. Things Change and Inhale for that matter really stuck with me. Um, in terms of like perfect pop, it's not quite on the Dua Lipa level, but I thought Confetti by Little Mix was a straight up banger.
mhm.
Um, I really liked Hasta Que Dos Diga by NYLA and Bad Bunny on the reggaeton side of things. And also shout out PTSD by G Herbo with Juice World and Uzi and Chance. Really good track as well. I mean, you can go for days. There's so
Yeah,
many individual moments. But what about you?
I had Phoebe Bridgers with Garden Song. Her and I believe it's her roadie that she sang with on that track just trade beautiful lines. Just from Run the Jewels, featuring Pharrell and Zach De La Rocha. A couple others I wanted to shout out: "Pressure in My Palms" by Amine with Slow
Oh
Thigh
yeah,
and Vince Staples, just a absolutely fantastic song. "Mirror Ball" by Taylor Swift was in consideration for me. Ultimately, lost out. Um, "On the Floor" by Perfume Genius was a track that I've enjoyed a lot this year. Um, yeah, I mean, we have there's like you said, there's a ton of music. So I'd recommend if you guys want to hear more of what we liked, check out our Nostalgia Best of 2020 playlist. Um, and prepare to follow our Best of 2021 playlist. I'm excited to see what artist drops an album that should have been up here and just drops it too late, so then they get lost for next year, like 21
yeah,
did 2 years ago.
yeah. Or RTJ3.
Yeah, I just want to say the most surprising thing for me is I didn't have any Tame Impala on my list.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
That album kind of left me after the
Mm.
first half of the year. I'm not sure why, but definitely I think still a quality album, but just one that unmemorable in some ways. So I don't know. Feels like a different world too. That came out in January, and now it's just been so long. But Dave, we're gonna be doing a couple more of these. We got TV coming up. We got movies, which is gonna be early in 2021. So give us that follow on youtube.com/nostalgia pod, soundcloud.com/nostalgia pod. Um, any last words for the year in music, Dave?
Keep an eye out for that Nostalgia Best of 2021 Spotify playlist starting up soon. Um, like you said, someone will probably drop momentarily. At this point, any music we will consider in 2020 as 2020-21 music. So keep an eye out for that playlist.
The year in music. It was a good one. Peace out.